said, I don't know that anybody can remember it. It's too much, right? So, anybody, maybe you want to introduce me to your people a little bit so they're not like, hey, who's the weirdo who's now in front of us talking while we're full of this delicious Mexican food?
Carl is my friend from South Africa.
Yes, first and foremost, that's the most important part.
He's a very smart branding expert and business coach. He works with gigantic companies and small companies. And he's part of GTK, the group that I'm in. He's helped several other of the friends in our group. Y'all know Frankie. He's helped Frankie. He's helping James tomorrow. He helps Oliver. So he's helping a lot of our subcontractors, and I thought he would be of great help to us. So that's the reason he's here. And thank you for coming.
Yeah, my pleasure. Now I feel silly. All right. So when I was talking to Jefe Missy about coming, what I do is I teach on 7 different things inside companies. And all of those things are towards what one goal do you think I have when coming in? Meeting with you guys, what's one thing you think I would be trying to do for all of you? Whether you own the place or you've been here for 3 hours.
Building communication skills.
Ding, 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 that's it. The base of all money that you will ever make is your ability to communicate with another human being. It doesn't matter. What was everybody's first job? So mine was outside of my dad making me work for free in a foundry. Steak and Shake was my first job. First job, Sonic? Okay, first job?
Albertsons.
Albertsons, the grocery store. What's your first job?
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell, okay. What was yours?
TCBY York.
Oh, okay. Now everybody's gonna be like full, but also a little weirdly hungry, like burrito lunch, like some froyo. All right, what was your first job over?
Gym loans.
Okay. What is?
I worked at Details Tiles, my first job.
Okay. When it wasn't Pops, has there ever been another job where somebody else paid you as?
Yeah, I worked graveyard at Cane's.
Okay.
That was in college.
Yeah, that's a real deal. Okay.
Hollister.
Okay. All right, making everybody feel bad about themselves. We're gonna be like, we're cool. You shouldn't be here. The Hollister putting off the vibe. It's not as bad as an Abercrombie vibe, but it's real. Like, I don't know if you should be in here, Carl. All right, Joe. What about you? What's your first job? Car wash. Okay. Swap meet. Okay. And sorry, man. It was Joe and Eduardo and Miguel. Okay. All right. So Eduardo was at the swap meet. What about you, Miguel? What was the first job? Lawnmower. Okay. Yeah, I guess technically that was my first job. I would walk around the neighborhood trying to get kids. Whole thing, every single one of those jobs, at some point you had to have a conversation with somebody and convince them to do what? To give you money in exchange for your time, right? And so what I want to do in this exercise that, like Jefe was saying, we'll teach this at a small startup of 3 people, and I've taught it for a 1,000-person company. Use it with Lululemon, with their creative director. And so it'll work with 2 people, it'll work with 1,000 people. I would tell you the thing that is getting in the way of your money, the thing I actually care about the most is making you more money for less effort. So that's typically where I get the room, where they're like, oh, I care now. I don't care about whatever you were doing before. But if Carl genuinely cares about getting you more money for less effort, that's how we do these sorts of things. Because at the end of the day, you're here at lunch because it was free and somebody paid you. Like, you're not doing this just because you're like, oh, these are the people. Now, it's great if you like each other and want to hang out. But at the end of the day, it is a business in which you are making money. And so if the business is making more money, and then you get to make more money, it's all based on setting better expectations. So for your notes, I want you to draw this on your piece of paper over here. And by the way, I have the world's worst handwriting, so have fun with that. This is why I have printouts like I brought Jefe earlier. Okay. In all of our trainings, we use shapes and numbers because humans, we understand shape and number faster than we do language. And what I mean by that is, if I say right now, Jambo Kisini Saka. Anybody know what I just said? All right, try it for one. بخلد من ايه? Anybody? Hola, ¿cómo está? Right? And if I said, hey, how are you? Okay. The problem with most of us is we are unintentionally speaking the wrong language. We're playing the wrong game. So if you and I are having a conversation, you're like, Carl, I said this. Well, if it's not an expectation I have, it's not a language I understand, all of a sudden, what are we doing? We're slowing down the communication between us and missing each other completely. And in a company, it doesn't matter if it's 2 people or 10,000 people. This is the quickest, fastest way to get frustrated and to lose money, is to not have the same set expectations. So let me ask this question. If I were to tell you that this was a game board, what game do you think I'm playing? Okay, great. So that's the first one there. Now I want you to expand the game board. What other games could I be playing on a checkerboard? Play it outside at a Cracker Barrel if you're sitting in rocking chairs. What do they have out there? You play it as a kid with red and black pieces. Checkers. Okay? So if I put this out a little further, you're like, okay, I can see the checkers. And then if what else is also played on the same game board as checkers? Chess. Now if I sat down with, a game board that was just a checkerboard and I said, hey, let's start to play, and you thought we were playing tic-tac-toe, and then I start setting up the pieces for chess, like how different are those games? They're literally, one is made for children, and the other one, people compete against each other to see who the smartest people on the planet are. You notice like just the variance. But I didn't set a clear expectation. I just drew a board up and said, hey, let's play. The example that I prefer, that I talked to the other owners about this morning is, think about middle school. If I pull out a red bouncing ball that's about this big, and I said, hey, we're gonna go play out at recess with this ball, what game do you think we're playing? Kickball. Anybody else have a different game that's played with that same red ball? Dodgeball. And Foursquare. All played with the same thing. All they need is a stretch of open grass or ground, and we can play this. Now I want you to imagine, Aubrey goes, okay, we're gonna play kickball. Now what would he do if I reared back and hit him in the face because I thought we were playing dodgeball, right? All of a sudden, all my friends who came to play dodgeball are like, awesome. And Aubrey's like, I'm gonna kick your ass right now in front of all your friends, and I'm gonna make it hurt, right? Because there wasn't a set expectation. This happens all the time in your company, because it happens all the time in every company. You're playing by one set of rules, somebody else is playing by a different set of rules. A client calls and goes, well, last time I did this, Hefe told me to do this, this, and this. Okay, you're playing by checkers. The next time something happens, we miss a step. Okay, well, I thought we were playing by the checkers rule. All of a sudden, the client had an adjustment. I don't know what that is, so now we're playing 2 different games, and there's a real problem. And what happens when there's those sorts of problems? You, not the company, you lose money. Because especially at a company your size, if we can grow the revenue, if we can make things more efficient, guess what? Everybody wins. It's that old saying of like, rising water lifts all boats, rising tides lifts all boats. If we can get the company more efficient, making more revenue, guess what? It's small enough where everybody can benefit from that. So everybody around this table should care a lot about setting expectations. And also, everybody at the table should have the ability to raise their hand and go, that expectation doesn't make sense to me, and I need us to fix this. Like, us to fix this. Not, all right, I'm waiting for someone else to fix this. Why? It's your money. It's also your happiness. So, the saying, or the slogan for my company is, we make happy companies. The reason we have something so small and simple, I've got an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. So at Curiosity, my consulting company, every meeting we start with this idea. Hey, what are we going to do today? We're going to make somebody happy. Hey, how are we going to do that? Oh, well, we've got this client. We're going to do this thing. All around what one goal? Making a happier company. You need to have your own personal mission statement inside your job. So if you don't mind me asking, what's kind of like your main responsibility on the team? What are you in charge of?
I'm a project coordinator, so I have several different projects that I run, and making sure all of the guys are there and scheduled. I'm also part of the surplus team, or surplus store. So I post stuff on Marketplace and things that we get from our demos or whatever, and I post that and sell that for these out.
Yeah. mind me asking a follow-up question? Why detail? Why work here?
I wanted something different. Of course, it's family owned, so
Mhm.
they're part of my family. So,
Yeah.
so it's family owned and small, and I've worked at corporate America for 16, 17 years. So I wanted to try something different.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. So what I would tell each of you, and I'm so sorry, your name one more time?
Christy.
Christy. Oh, thank you, Christy. I want each of you on your piece of paper to write down your one word. Like, why detail? Why do you work here? You could work someplace else. It's fine if it's the money. It's fine if you like a position of power and you feel power, like whatever your thing is. What I heard from Christy is it feels connected. Like I feel connected to something. Like in corporate, it's so big, I feel disconnected. I don't feel like maybe I can influence it. But here, there's a real sense of connection both to the work and to the people, right? So you need a one-word mission statement for you. Like if you were, and maybe you can answer this now, and maybe I can give you some more time later on, or Misty or Jeff can help you with this. But you need to be able to answer in one word or less. Why do I work here? You know why I work? Why I do this? Because I like being around happy people. Like, life is too short and a work week is too long for it to suck. Like for you to give 40, 50 hours to something for the next 20, 30 years of your life and it not be more fun than it was today. So like for you guys, I'm going, what makes it one step better? So for you, let me ask you, if the job today, if you were gonna rank your happiness at working at the job, 0 to 10, 0 meaning I'm actually about to stab you in the throat, Carl, and then run over to the Hefe with my car on the way out of here. I'm disgruntled, this place is the worst. Or 10 is, I really wish I could tell everybody that I've ever known and loved to come and work here because it's that great. Typically it's not a 0 and it's not a 10. So today for you, where would you rank detail?
I'll say 7.
7, okay, great. So my question then becomes, what takes it from a 7 to a 7.1? And then a 7 to a 7.5. So what's maybe the number one thing that you would say, I think this would push it in the right direction?
I guess a little bit more communication.
Yeah, okay, excellent. So what happens is what we're talking about there is I don't really know what's expected of me or what I'm expecting of somebody else isn't happening, and so there's a breakdown in our conversation, right? What's the first byproduct of that? This is for your notes. When expectations get broken, it goes in these 4 things. First place, it just hurts a little. And hurt, I don't mean like in the hyper-emotional states. Like, oh, it was unexpected and like, imagine kicking your toe on a coffee table in the middle of the night. Oh, that hurt. I noticed that. I don't like that. That's basically what the first phase of an unmet expectation or poor communication, right? The next step is when it happens a bunch. Now we have a frustration. Oh, okay. Hey, if I'm saying there's a 7 right now and I'd like to be a 7.5 and the first thing I notice is communication, it probably means we're already at a frustrated level because it means it's happening more than once. It's not I kicked my toe once when I was 12, it's every time I get up to go to the bathroom in the dark room, I kick this same table. I'm having a frustration now starting to build up around this. The third place is resentment. This is where we get this phrase, quiet quitting. Like, if I have this thing happen enough, I'm going to start resenting the company or the leader or my particular team or a client because I'm just waiting for it to happen. It's going to happen. I'm just expecting when I get up from bed in the middle of the night, I'm waiting to kick this coffee table because it's in the space. Now, here's the interesting thing. This thing starts to spread. It's no longer just about the problem. When I start to get resentful, now I'm pissed off with my wife because she decorated the living room and she put the coffee table there. So the next morning when I wake up and she wakes up, now all of a sudden there's just a tension in the air and she's like, I went to bed and we were fine. What's going on this morning? And I'm like, that coffee table that you put in the middle of, now all of a sudden it's not about the thing anymore, right? It's this big thing that we've let happen. And then the last place you get to, all businesses are corrupt, all capitalism is terrible. To use the example I just used, excuse my language, like, fuck all coffee tables and wives. Like, I've now escalated this to this giant place, and we know people like this. They can be in their 30s all the way to their 80s. They're just bitter. Like, you can see it on their face. They're like, this type of person or this type of thing is a problem. You'll see this a lot with older employees who've never had a space like this to be like, hey, could we fix this? And so they get to 20, 30, 40 years of being in an industry, and they're like, all construction are like garbage, snake oil salesmen trying to steal from me, because they've only experienced that level of lack of care. And so there's hurt that's built up that naturally gets to the space. And so what I want for us today is, as we go through this exercise, I'm going to teach you a tool on how to set better expectations. I want for you to go, oh, okay, well, when Carl came on, whatever this is, end of May, what's that?
29.
Thank you. May 29th, I was at a 7, and we started using this tool, and the next time I come hang out, maybe 4th quarter of this year, you guys run a retreat, and I'll come help with that. Oh, all of a sudden I'm at an 8 because we started doing this thing better. As opposed to, no, my frustration eventually turned into resentment at the owners or the clients or the other people on the team because I kept on asking, and then eventually I don't work there anymore and I have a bitterness towards that company, and then eventually all sorts of companies that even feel like them. Does that make sense? So any questions on this scale here and how we avoid that? I'm gonna erase it. Or just a piece of paper. Okay. So I want you to now number for the exercise again 1 through 4. And I want you to write down, expectations are the rules of the game. Expectations are the rules of the game. Alright, so if I'm saying, okay, let's set up this game, let's be kids, have a good time, be happier in our work. What was your favorite game growing up as a kid? What did you like to play?
Monopoly.
Okay, Monopoly's a good one. It's also a good way to get in a fight. I mean, it's the number one, family violence game, I'm sure, is Monopoly. Aubrey, what about you? What was your favorite game as a kid? I mean, but sports could be any game. You don't get to the size of you without playing something. When you were moving that body. What were you doing?
I think like favorite though, it was.
I mean, he was a kickball guy apparently. That's the first one that came to mind. Yeah, what was your favorite game as an 8-year-old? If you had spare time on a Saturday morning, what game were you playing with your friends? This is where it gets real sad for me, where Aubrey goes, Carl, I didn't have friends. I put him on the spot and I was like, damn, Carl, I'm having like PTSD. I didn't know where to go to therapy. I didn't realize that I was giving you like a difficult one here. Sorry, Aubrey, that's on me.
Because I'm thinking like non-sport related, because I did all of them.
Okay.
So.
He's trying to get
Your favorite. Which one is your favorite?
He's like, it's hard. I was so
They
good at all of them,
were
Dad.
They were favorite back then. Everything was.
Yeah, you like
Tackling
everything.
the man with the ball.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
his favorite.
Got it.
Yeah.
Hit somebody really hard. Got it. What about you?
Memory, right? Like memory or seeing it.
Okay, yeah. No.
Oh, she had me help
Yeah.
up at the dining room table.
Like, what is this weird memory that you have? All right, Joe, what about you? What was your favorite game as a kid?
Can I say? Do we have a say? We do, right? Say.
Sega, yeah. What game did you play on Sega?
I think it was Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Okay, so when I came to the States from South Africa, we were so poor, my parents didn't have any money, so we would literally go to Walmart. That was like our hangout time while my mom would shop. We would literally watch other kids play Mortal Kombat, and that was our entertainment at the front of the Walmart. So I have very deep, fond memories. My mom would come out and be like, what are you watching? I'd be like, nothing. Nothing. It's fine. Okay, last one. Miguel, favorite game?
Uno.
Uno, okay, all right. So let me ask you this: as you think about your favorite game, and Trish, feel free to jump in if you want to. If there's a game that on the tip of your tongue, you're waiting to give yours. Is there a game for you?
Basketball.
Basketball. Okay, this is a great one. So, what is the most important thing in basketball at the beginning? What do you have to know? Before you can have fun, you have to know the rules. It's counterproductive, right? You don't think of like, oh, rules make the fun. But what happens when we don't know the rules of basketball? We've all played one of those backyard games where all of a sudden, like, your friend gets really pissed off and they just start hack-a-shacking in the middle of the game, and you're like, you can't do that. And they're like, well, we didn't talk about it, so I am going to do it because I actually secretly am pissed off at you right now, so I'm going to take it out on you in the game, right? And the game kind of breaks apart because nobody's playing by the same rules. Now, even more important than that, in the rules, which is this whole idea, what's the first thing that you establish when you play a pickup game of basketball? First two, like if you're playing pickup with strangers, 100%. What does that number mean? It's the score, which gives us the who wins. Because we've all played backyard games, you're like, oh, let's not keep score. How long does it last? It's like half an hour, and then somebody gets pissed, and it's not super fun. You're like, what are we doing? I don't know, let's go do anything else. It loses its connectivity because there's not the fun. Because you'll run a game of 5, 10, 21 100 times, but we just need the thing to get to and then start again, and then get to and start. So at the beginning, the first thing of setting a good expectation, clear win. Right now, I would imagine for almost everybody at this table, there's not enough clarity on what the win is. Now, Hefe, you're going to get a pop quiz because you got to hear this morning. What are the two things required for a clear win? This isn't done until we have what two things? Yeah. Number and a deadline. Exactly. This is the most important thing that I can give you here. A clear win has to have a number and a deadline. Again, think about the sports you used to play, or the games you used to play. So Sega, Mortal Kombat, it's like, oh, this round will last 60 seconds. At the end of this, one guy's going to have his spleen ripped out. Oh, you win. It was clear what the number was. There's one alive person and one dead person, and the round ends in 60 seconds. In basketball, it's, oh, well, we have probably another half an hour before mom and dad call us in. So in the next 30 minutes, how many times can we get to 21 and start over? There has to be a number, first one to 21, within the next 30 minutes before we have to go inside. For a lot of the businesses that I see, and again, it doesn't matter if it's a one-person operation or General Electric, which I was just with their CTO the other day. I don't coach them, but we were just talking about it. They have 240,000 employees. I ran this exercise with him on a plane, and he was like, we're not doing that well enough. So just know, you're in good company. This is the problem of being with humans, is our expectations are always shifting. But in order to understand the first thing, what's the win, there has to be a number and a deadline. So somebody give me an example of what a win could be in your department that has a number and a deadline.
Mine would be the surplus part.
Okay.
As far as the deadline goes, was gonna be middle of next month, so we have a deadline to make sure we get all of the things that's in the warehouse and surplus stuff sold by the deadline.
Okay, great. Would you have any idea how much stuff is in that surplus that you need to get sold in the next, 45 days or 15?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I have inventory.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I don't have for sure like a number
Yeah.
in mind.
Here's another line for you guys, and I apologize, I speak in fortune cookies, so there's always a one-liner. So for your notes, you cannot manage what you do not measure. Cannot manage what you do not measure. So one of the things I would say to the whole team is, thank you, appreciate it, thank you so much, you're great. I'm telling you this, I was a traveling musician for 10 years. I'm about as artist as you can get, and somebody who leads like actual teams and things. I don't love sitting with an Excel spreadsheet. I'm not sitting there going, oh, let me look at all the pie charts and all this. But I'm saying, there should be 1 or 2, 3 or 4 big numbers in your world that you're managing all the time. So if you're just going, I don't know, then nobody knows what the win is. And then kind of like you were talking about, my frustration around communication is because I don't know how to manage what we're doing because there's not a number. There's not a win that we can clarify towards, right? So we're playing the game, but what's more frustrating than not playing the game is playing one where you go, I don't know when it finishes, I don't know when we win, I also don't know when we lose, so I can adjust. And so this will just create, again, that hurt and frustration, resentment and bitterness if we don't know what that win is. So, any questions on what's the first thing of setting a good expectation? You have to have a clear win. Anybody have, like, well, Carl, what does that mean on a Tuesday when I'm doing this? I want this to be practical, it's not philosophical. The idea is I want you to start using this on a Thursday morning going, okay, I'm starting my day today, what's the win? So feel free, like, any questions around that in your department of how to know what the win is? Okay, so I'll say this really quickly. If you don't ask me, an assumption will be made that you know what it is and that you're going to communicate it to Hefe. And so if in your department you're like, I don't know what the win is, this would be a good time to be like, how would I even get there? Let me help you unpack that in real time. This doesn't need to be like, oh, we went to an exercise and I was sleepy from lunch and then Carl talked at me for 30 minutes. It's like, no, I want to help you. So can everybody around the table go, I know how to get to the clear win number and deadline? Everybody saying yes to that? Or we have some questions?
I think for me, there isn't just one clear win. I think it's a series of wins that leads, small battles that lead to the eventual result.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have deadlines and things that we finish, and then there's the next to actually come to a completion at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bunch of small,
Yeah.
deadlines that culminate into one big one at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
At least with what I do and what Christy does when we run projects.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always that end date that we have in our head that we give ourselves and the clients when we start the project, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or whatever. But before we reach that, there's a series of deadlines and wins that we have to deal with for each thing that has to happen next and next and next after
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's just one, I would say it's multiple, at least
100%
for
agree.
me.
Yeah, no, and it should be for everybody, right? So let's go back to your basketball analogy of playing the game. I would ask everybody, like, what's the winning score? So in business, what's the win? What's the score? And sorry, that's not rhetorical. What's the win in business? My man just made it, yeah, it's the money, right?
Yeah.
So everybody around the table should know what the winning number is. So if we don't have one now, we need to establish and communicate it. So, if, say, hypothetically, the company made $2 million last year, next year, do we want to make 2.5 or 3 million? Everybody around the table should know that number and be committed to it. So that we're going, oh, that's the eventual big celebration goal at the end of 2024. And now, like you said, in the game of basketball, it's like, okay, and this is where the analogy breaks down a little bit, we know the other team's going to score 80 points. How many do we need to score? 81 points. There you go, that's it. We don't want to lose, so we know that we're going for 81 points. So now all of a sudden we're creating a game plan around that, and each of our wins builds to that thing. And so like you said, if your particular area on the court is you're the point guard, you're like, well, my first win is to get the ball inbounded to me. Okay, so I'm going to put this person out of bounds, you throw me the ball, and then I've got to get it across half court within the first 10 seconds. That's my first win towards the eventual 4-quarter goal of getting 81 points, which gets us the win. And so like you said, what we want to do in every department is go, well, how is my particular one win on this Tuesday building towards the 81-point win, the $2.5 or $3 million goal at the end of the year? And where I would say there's a lot of disconnect in all companies is, I don't know how what I'm doing on a Tuesday is actually affecting the $3 million goal. And so how do we get really clear on that? It's like you're doing this really big project, right, of moving surplus inventory. It's going, okay, well, if that's done well, we'll generate $150,000 in revenue. If it's done poorly, we'll only generate 100. Okay, that's a $50,000 loss against our $3 million in goal. Oh, this is really important. Okay, we need to pause I need other people's help because the wins I'm trying to get, as we'll see here in a second, I don't have enough resources for. So it's really important that in everybody's particular role, you know what your many small wins are that's going towards your department's win, that's going towards the company's win. So, great question. Great thought on that. Other people asking around the question, do you know what the win is in terms of a number and a deadline? Could everybody around the table give me one? Could you say, oh, this would be a numerical win? So you're kind of nodding, what would your win be by what deadline? And again, the smaller the better. A lot of times we'll say things like, I've got to sell all the inventory. Whew, man, that's a big job. Like, I don't know how to do that, right? Or I've got to get these 5 SKUs loaded by the end of business today. Okay, that's a manageable, achievable, I know the number, I know the deadline sort of thing. So what's kind of the first win or deadline that pops into mind for you?
For me, I do social media, so my win, is to have 3,000 Instagram followers for us by the end of Q3. I'm 70 away, so I'm close.
Oh,
But
that's awesome.
That's the number, that's the deadline.
Yeah, great. And one of the things that I would tell you also for your notes, input is greater than output. You can control input, very difficult to control output. This is where you deal with client relations, right? It's like, I sent them the proposal, I've called them 3 times, I've done the email. You're controlling the input, what you can actually put into the process. Very difficult to control the output. Now what we'll start to notice is, if the outputs keep on being wrong, we've got the wrong inputs. So we can adjust those, but at the beginning you want to focus on, so like in your goal of, I want to hit 3,000, that's an output goal. That's, in other business terms they were talking, that's a lag measure. I want to control the lead measure, the input part of this, the thing that I can do. So to me, it would be adjusting that goal that says, okay, if historically I've added 10 followers per 5 posts. So it's, a post gets me 2 followers. Well, if I need to get 70, I'm like, well, historically that means I need 35 posts to get those last 70 followers on Instagram, right? And so now you're going, okay, well, around between now and Q3, I'm not going to actually worry about the output. I've already done the research on that. What I will start to plan out is 35 posts by the end of Q3. Now all of a sudden I can control my input. We feel very powerless when we're thinking about the output of going, I keep on doing stuff, but are we doing the right things? Are we looking at our inputs, the things that we are in control of? Does that make sense? Other win. What would be another win with a number and a deadline?
I would say, whenever they give you like, let's say they tell you you have to finish this backsplash within 3 days and you finish it within a day and a half, well, I think that's a win for the company.
Massive win. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the question that I would ask around that is, like, how are we kind of celebrating that a little bit? Because part of this as well is your brain is wired to go fight, flight, or freeze, right? Everything's always like there's a scarcity. Your brain is not desired to celebrate. It's not desired to go, look, we did a thing, how great is that? And so I would ask you, like, how often do you find yourselves finishing kind of ahead of schedule?
Not often, but whenever you do it, it gives you that, I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it shows your bosses that you're like really trying
Yeah.
to finish something before the deadline, and then they see that you're actually doing your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is great. So I want us to put on our creative hats here just a little bit. What do you think you could do if the team there, having finished the backsplash a day and a half early, what do you think creatively we could do to increase communication and improve our expectation management around that thing? Does anything pop to mind? All right, let me draw a closer example. We were just talking about social media, and we just talked about a win. What would you think we could do with what was just described? That's it, right? It's a quick social media shout out where you're texting, their team and being like, hey guys, just so you know, here's a picture of the backsplash. It was due in 3 days. We got it finished in a day and a half. And and then all of a sudden you tag the members of the team and you share this fun thing, all of a sudden there's more communication. Oh, I'm being seen for the good work that I'm doing, right? Because a lot of times, let's be really honest, in the work that you guys are doing, how often do you hear about it when it's bad? Every time. Every time. Every single time. How often do you hear when it's good or above average? Like almost never, right? Because the world is not wired currently to admire craftsmanship or good work. It's just there to retaliate when an expectation goes unmet. So again, if we can get good at this, I promise you, you'll hear less of the complaints, and then we as a culture can celebrate wins like that much better by going, oh, it's now an expectation of ours that anytime we do well, we're going to tell our story well. Because it's important both for us inside these four walls and then anybody else who doesn't know us yet. Because I want you to feel great about that work, because that took above what you were asked to do. Like, if we're really honest, you could have sat on your hands and just be like, I'm going to just soak up a day and a half.
I'm done, and I'm not going to say anything to the end of the day. And
Exactly. Yeah, I'm going to play Sega with Joe. Right? All right. All right, so that's how the first thing is the win clear. And remember, what two things does a win need? Man, I love smart people. All right, number 2, doable. The question, is it doable? Big problem, obviously, in the service industry is we say, yep, yes, right? Because we're terrified of what?
Failure.
Well, not actually terrified of failure, because we'll figure that out. We'll be like, I'll figure out how not to fail later. What are we actually terrified when we're giving an immediate yes? Why are we giving a yes?
Maybe to meet expectations.
What's that?
Expectations.
Right. So I want you to think in terms of a client. So a client's like, hey, can you do this, this, and this by this date? They're asking you as a doable question. And we're saying yes immediately because we have a fear of what?
Saying no.
Choosing someone else.
Showing we're incapable.
Choosing someone else, incapable, and sorry, yours was, Kristen?
Saying no.
Saying no. Yeah. No has its own level of fear in and of itself, right? Because it feels like a disconnector word. So what I would encourage you to do is get more curious. That's a plug because that's also our website, so you're welcome. Anytime somebody's asking you a question, don't respond with a statement. Respond with another question. Like, hey, is this doable? Oh, okay, I'd love to talk about that more. So as you see it, what do what's the timeline really? Oh, I want the backsplash in 24 hours. You're like, well, okay, I'd love to know what's the size and scope of this backsplash. Normally for us, that's a kind of a 3-day job. Has somebody else told you that it could be done in a day? We need to see it. So again, you're asking questions to see, is it really doable? This is also really important on the team. One of the most common phrases I'll hear in a company is, hey, I need it done by this. And then when I ask why, they'll say, because we've always done it that way. Because this is the way that we've always done it. And especially in an environment like yours where it's a smaller company, where you don't have thousands of people, we're going, you're each figuring it out individually. And so one person's doable is not somebody else's. Like, Hefe's been doing this 20 years now, right? 19, I think it's 20, right? You can he walked into my bathroom in Atlanta and could look at it, and it took you and Trisha how long to like size up the cost of what I wanted? 20, 30 minutes. It would take me 20 or 30 hours because I don't have any of that knowledge. One of the things that we have to do with each other is have a lot of grace to go, you know things you don't know, you know things you don't know, vice versa. Like there is a wealth of information that's happening at different speeds. This is why this question is so important, especially, by the way, and I'll say this, especially from Jeff and Misty to all of you. This is a question I'm giving you now all of the power in the room. You need to use this as like your own little protective blanket of going, hey, remember when Carl said, is it doable? The thing you're asking me, I have a lot of anxiety about because it doesn't feel doable. And then, Hefe, Misty, really kind people, hey, would you mind unpacking that for me? Help me understand what about this doesn't feel doable. But this has to be a thing where we're not just saying yes and then running away and going, I guess we'll figure that out later. Because what's that gonna do? We're gonna break expectations. We're gonna miss expectations. And it's better not to set them than to break them. Okay?
So it's better to say no than yes?
I would tell you no is the most important word in your vocabulary. And what I mean by that, just before somebody mishears what I'm saying, is I don't come with a no like posture or attitude. I come with a curious attitude of, hey, could we talk more about that? So it's more, let me give that a little nuance. I wouldn't say it's yes, which is gas pedal, or brake, which is gas. Man, that was screwed up. It's not gas pedal, which is a yes, or a brake pedal, which is a no. It's the throttle in between the two that says, hey, I'm going to downshift. I'm going to like redirect this thing and ask, is this exactly where we want to go? So it's not yes or no. It's the curiosity in between those two things. Because both of them are actually pretty dangerous. No is actually more helpful than you think it is. Yes is less helpful than you think it is.
Just for clarity, T says yes to everything.
Sure.
Trisha says no to most things.
Right.
So, there's gotta be some in between.
Exactly.
And I don't feel like we do a great job of managing
Mm-hmm.
the in between.
Yep. Yep. And this is the antidote to all of that. There's not enough curiosity on the other side. You're saying yes because you're afraid of it not happening or not getting the job. You're saying no because your resources are already too thin and spread out, so there's no more bandwidth for anything more. And both parties have to get more curious. And one of the things around this is like, is this job a win? Is this thing a win? So you're going back to the first thing. Because a lot of times in a company your size, you're just saying yes to everything because it's like, well, we need more clients. And then on the other side, somebody who's the process integrator person is going, I'm going to start saying no to everything because there's no more room in the pipeline to execute on the work we've already said yes to. And if we keep on doing this, we're going to lose our main thing, which is your expectation is really your brand. And if you're breaking expectation all the time, you're damaging your brand. That's why you're saying no. It's the exact same coin why you're saying yes. So you've got two sides of the same exact coin, both trying to protect the brand poorly because it's not curious enough. It's not going, well, let's ask a couple of questions here before we move forward.
All right, so I totally agree, and I called them out only because we don't do a great job of setting this up, and showing them what the win's gonna be. We typically have to come back and clarify, okay, no, but listen, yes, but don't do everything, you have to kind of down throttle from both directions.
Yep.
And, it's just, like you said, setting clear expectations. We don't really do a good job of that, honestly. And
It's a muscle, by the way. So I would tell everybody, this is not a pass-fail. Either we do it badly or we do it great. It's a continuum where we're going to get a little bit better at this all the time. And I promise you, 6 months from now, if you're doing just these simple 4 things, it will feel like a completely different company. I promise you. That's literally a guarantee. All right, you guys have been sitting for a long time. Let's take a quick 10 minutes and then we'll come back and do number 3 and 4. Good. Answer emails, go to the bathroom, or take a walk outside.